Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Tonight I will be finishing part 1, technically book 3, but part 1 of the Two Towers. I'm going to be reading the last 2 chapters because the plan is I'm going to be doubling up the reading streams, particularly this month, but also like moving forward through October to get through a number of horror stories leading up to Halloween. But I need to double up the reading streams as well as double up the chapters in each stream so I get through all of Two Towers before September begins. And if everything goes according to plan, not only will my voice be incredibly messed up afterwards, but I will be done with a week to spare. And I'll use that week, that last week of August, to recuperate, to regain my vocal cords, and then begin September 2nd with this book, The Hellbound Heart. For those who have at least seen the first Hellraiser movie, this is the book Hellraiser is based off of. And I'm going to be starting with this book beginning September 2nd. Like I said, if everything goes according to plan, that's what's going to happen. Not only will I be hurting with my voice, but also I will be finishing Two Towers. But I'm going to get the member message real fast. Mike Hill, member for 44 months. Thank you so much. Hey, Mara, with Rings of Power being the 4th popular show last year, can you imagine how, if it was the 4th best show, like, how much worse the other ones were, and how barely better the top 3 were? Bet you're really looking forward to season 3. Yes, totally. Anyway, but let's just get right into it, ladies and gentlemen. With chapter 10, so I'll be reading chapters 10 and 11 tonight. Beginning with the voice of Saruman. Alright, like I said, probably going to start reading this a bit slowly because my voice is going to be hurting by the time I am done. Anyway. They passed through the ruined tunnel and stood upon a heap of stones, gazing at the dark rock of Orthanc and its many windows, a menace still in the desolation that lay all about it. The waters had now nearly all subsided. Here and there, gloomy pools remained, covered with scum and wreckage, but most of the wide circle was bare again, a wilderness of slime and tumbled rock, pitted with blackened holes, and dotted with posts and pillars, leaning drunkenly this way and that. At the rim of the shattered bowl, there lay vast mounds and slopes, like the shingles cast up by a great storm, and beyond them the green and tangled valley ran up into the long ravine, between the dark arms of the mountains. Across the waste they saw riders picking their way. They were coming from the north side, and already they were drawing near to Orthanc. "There is Gandalf, and Theoden and his men," said Legolas. "Let us go and meet them." "Walk warily," said Merry. "There are loose slabs that may tilt up and throw you down into a pit if you don't take care." They followed what was left of the road from the gates to Orthanc, going slowly, for the flagstones were cracked and slimed. The riders, seeing them approach, halted under the shadow of the rock and waited for them. Gandalf rode forward to meet them. "Well, Treebeard and I have had some interesting discussions, and made a few plans," he said, "and we have all had some much-needed rest. Now we must be going on again. I hope you companions have all rested too, and refreshed yourselves." "We have," said Merry, "but our discussions began and ended in smoke. Still we feel less ill-disposed towards Saruman than we did." "Do you indeed?" said Gandalf. "Well, I do not. I have now a last task to do before I go. I must pay Saruman a farewell visit. Dangerous and probably useless, but it must be done. Those of you who wish may come with me, but beware, and do not jest. This is not the time for it." "I will come," said Gimli. "I wish to see him and learn if he really looks like you." Welcome, chat. "And how will you learn that, Master Dwarf?" said Gandalf. "Saruman could look like me in your eyes if it suited his purpose with you. And are you yet wise enough to detect all his counterfeits? Well, we shall see, perhaps. He may be shy of showing himself before many different eyes together, but I have ordered all the Ents to remove themselves from sight, so perhaps we shall persuade him to come out." "What's the danger?" asked Pippin. "Will he shoot at us and pour fire out of the windows? Or can he put a spell on us from a distance?" The last is most likely if you ride to his door with a light heart, said Gandalf. But there is no knowing what he can do, or may choose to try. A wild beast cornered is not safe to approach, and Saruman has powers you do not guess. Beware of his voice. They came now to the foot of Orthanc. It was black, and the rock gleamed as if it were wet. The many faces of the stone had sharp edges as though they had been newly chiseled. A few scorings and small flake-like splinters near the base were all of the marks that it bore of the fury of the Ents. On the eastern side, in the angle of two piers, there was a great door, high above the ground, and over it was a shuttered window, opening upon a balcony hedged with iron bars. Up to the threshold of the door there mounted a flight of 27 broad stairs, hewn by some unknown art of the same black stone. This was the only entrance to the tower, but many tall windows were cut with deep embrasures in the climbing walls. Far up they peered like little eyes in the sheer faces of the horns. At the foot of the stairs, Gandalf and the king dismounted. I will go up, said Gandalf. I have been in Orthanc, and I know my peril. And I too will go up, said the king. I am old and fear no peril any more. I wish to speak with the enemy who has done me so much wrong. Éomer shall come with me, and see that my aged feet do not falter. As you will, said Gandalf. Aragorn shall come with me. Let the others await us at the foot of the stairs. They will hear and see enough, if there is anything to hear or see. Nay, said Gimli, Legolas and I wish for a closer view. We alone here represent our kindreds. We also will come behind. Come then, said Gandalf, and with that he climbed the steps, and Theoden went beside him. The riders of Rohan sat uneasily upon their horses on either side of the stair, and looked up darkly at the great tower, fearing what might befall their lord. Merry and Pippin sat up on the bottom step, feeling both unimportant and unsafe. Half a sticky mile from here to the gate, muttered Pippin. I wish I could slip off back to the guard room unnoticed. What did we come for? We are not wanted. Gandalf stood before the door of Orthanc and beat on it with his staff. It rang with a hollow sound. Saruman! Saruman! He cried in a loud, commanding voice. Saruman, come forth! For some time there was no answer. At last the window above the door was unbarred, but no figure could be seen in its dark opening. Who is it? Said a voice. What do you wish? Theoden started. I know that voice, he said, and I curse the day when I first listened to it. Welcome, everyone. Go and fetch Saruman, since you have become his footman, Grima Wormtongue, said Gandalf, and do not waste our time. The window closed. They waited. Suddenly another voice spoke, low and melodious, its very sound an enchantment. Those who listened unwearily to that voice could seldom report the words that they heard, and if they did, they wondered for a little power remained in them. Mostly they remembered only that it was a delight to hear the voice speaking. All that it said seemed wise and reasonable, and desire awoke in them by swift agreement to seem wise themselves. When others spoke, they seemed harsh and uncouth by contrast, and as they gainsaid the voice, anger was kindled in the hearts of those under the spell. For some, the spell lasted only while the voice spoke to them, and when it spoke to another, they smiled, as men do who see through a juggler's trick while others gape at it. For many, the sound of the voice alone was enough to hold them enthralled, but for those whom it conquered, the spell endured when they were far away, and ever they heard that soft voice whispering and urging them. But none were unmoved, none rejected his pleas and his commands without an effort of mind, and will so long as its master had control of it. Well, it said now with a gentle question, why must you disturb my rest? Will you give me no peace at all by night or day? Its tone was that of a kindly heart aggrieved by injuries undeserved. They looked up, astonished, for they had heard no sound of his coming, and they saw a figure standing at the rail, looking down upon them, an old man, swathed in a great cloak, the color of which was not easy to tell, for it changed if they moved their eyes or if he stirred. His face was long, with a high forehead, he had deep, darkling eyes, hard to fathom, though the look that they now bore was grave and benevolent, and a little weary. His hair and beard were white, but strands of black still showed about his lips and ears. Like and yet unlike, muttered Gimli. But come now, said the soft voice, two at least of you I know by name. Gandalf I know too well to have much hope that he seeks help or counsel here. But you, Theoden, Lord of the Mark of Rohan, are declared by your noble devices, and still more by the fair countenance of the house of Earl. O worthy son of Thangol, the thrice renowned, why have you not come before, and as a friend? Much have I desired to see you, mightiest king of the western lands, and especially in these latter years, to save you from the unwise and evil counsels that beset you. Is it yet too late? Despite the injuries that have been done to me, in which the men of Rohan, alas, have had some parts, still I would save you, and deliver you from the ruin that draws nigh inevitably, if you ride upon this road which you have taken. Indeed, I alone can aid you now. Theoden opened his mouth as if to speak, but he said nothing. He looked up at the face of Saruman with its dark, solemn eyes bent down upon him, and then to Gandalf at his side, and he seemed to hesitate. Gandalf made no sign, but stood silent as stone, as one waiting patiently for some call that has not yet come. The riders stirred at first, murmuring with approval of the words of Saruman, and then they too were silent, as men spellbound. It seemed to them that Gandalf had never spoken so fair and fittingly to their lord. Rough and proud now seemed all his dealings with Theoden, and over their hearts crept a shadow, the fear of a great danger, the end of the mark on the darkness to which Gandalf was driving them, while Saruman stood beside a door of escape, holding it half open so that a ray of light came through. There was a heavy silence. It was Gimli the dwarf who broke it, and suddenly. The words of this wizard stand on their heads, he growled, gripping the handle of his axe. In the language of Orthanc, help means ruin, and saving means slaying. That is plain. We do not come here to beg. Peace, said Saruman, and for a fleeting moment his voice was less suave, and the light flickered in his eyes and was gone. I do not speak to you yet, Gimli Gloin's son, he said. Far away is your home, and small concern of yours are the troubles of this land. But it was not by design of your own that you became embroiled in them, and so I will not blame such part as you have played. A valiant one, I doubt not. But I pray you, allow me first to speak with the King of Rohan, my neighbor, and once my friend. What have you to say, Theoden King? Will you have peace with me, and all the aid that my knowledge, founded in long years, can bring? Shall we make our counsels together against evil days, and repair our injuries with such good will that our estates shall both come to fairer flower than ever before? Still Theoden did not answer. Whether he strove with anger or doubt, none could say. Eomer spoke. Lord, hear me, he said. Now we feel the peril that we were warned of. Have we ridden forward to victory only to stand at last amazed by an old liar with honey on his forked tongue? So would the trapped wolf speak to the hounds if he could. What aid can he give to you, forsooth? All he desires is to escape from his plight. But will you parley with this dealer in treachery and murder? Remember Theodred at the forge and the grave of Hama in Helm's Deep. If we speak of poisoned tongues, what shall we say of yours, young serpent? Said Saruman, and the flash of his anger was now plain to see. But come, Eomer, Eomen's son, he went on in his soft voice again, to every man his part. Valor in arms is yours, and you win high honor thereby. Slay whom your lord names as enemies, and be content. Meddle not in policies which you do not understand. But maybe, if you become a king, you will find that he must choose his friends with care. The friendship of Saruman and the power of Orthanc cannot be lightly thrown aside. Whatever grievances, real or fancied, may lie behind. You have won a battle, but not a war, and that with help on which you cannot count on. You may find the shadow of the wood at your own door next. It is wayward and senseless, and has no love for men. But my lord of Rohan, am I to be called a murderer because valiant men have fallen in battle? If you go to war needlessly, for I did not desire it, then men will be slain. But if I am a murderer on that account, then all the house of Earl is stained with murder. For they have fought many wars, and assailed many who defied them. Yet with some they have afterwards made peace, none the worse for being politic. I say, Theoden King, shall we have peace and friendship, you and I? It is ours to command. We will have peace, said Theoden, at last thickly and with an effort. Several of the riders cried out gladly. Theoden held up his hand. Yes, we will have peace, he said now in a clear voice. We will have peace. When you and all your works have perished, and the works of your dark master to whom you would deliver us, you were a liar, Saruman, and a corrupter of men's hearts. You hold out your hand to me, and I perceive only a finger of the claw of Mordor, cruel and cold, even if your war on me was just, as it was not. For were you 10 times as wise, you would have no right to rule me and mine for your own profit as you desired. Even so, what will you say of your torches in Westfold and the children that lie dead there? And they hewed Hamas's body before the gates of the Hornburg after he was dead. When you hang from a gibbet at your window for the sport of your own crows, I will have peace with you and Orthanc. So much for the House of Earl. A lesser son of great sires am I, but I do not need to lick your fingers. Turn elsewhither, but I fear your voice has lost its charm. This is why I would serve Theoden, if I were living in Middle-earth. The riders gazed up at Theoden like men startled out of a dream. Harsh as an old raven's their master's voice sounded in their ears after the music of Saruman. But Saruman for a while was beside himself with wrath. He leaned over the rail as if he would smite the king with his staff. To some, suddenly it seemed that they saw a snake coiling itself to strike. Gibbets and crows, he hissed, and they shuddered at the hideous change. Dotard, what is the House of Earl but a thatched barn with the brigands to drink in the reek, and their brats roll on the floor among the dogs? Too long have they escaped the gibbet themselves, but the noose comes, slow in the drawing, tight and hard in the end. Hang if you will. Now his voice changed, as he slowly mastered himself. I know not why I have had the patience to speak to you, for I need you not, nor with your little band of gallopers, as swift to fly as to advance, Theoden Horsemaster. Long ago I offered you a state beyond your merit and your wit. I have offered it again, so that those whom you mislead may clearly see the choice of roads. You give me brag and abuse. So be it. Go back to your huts. But you, Gandalf, for you at least I am grieved, feeling for your shame. How comes it that you can endure such company? For you are proud, Gandalf, and not without a reason, having a noble mind and eyes that look both deep and far. Even now, will you not listen to my counsel? Gandalf stirred and looked up. What have you to say that you did not say at our last meeting, he asked. Or perhaps you have things to unsay. Saruman paused. Unsay, he mused, as if puzzled. Unsay, I endeavored to advise you for your own good, but you scarcely listened. You are proud and do not love advice, having indeed a store of your own wisdom. But on that occasion you erred, I think, misconstruing my intentions willfully. I fear that in my eagerness to persuade you, I lost patience, and indeed I regret it. For I bore you no ill will, and even now I bear none, though you return to me in the company of the violent and the ignorant. How should I? Are we not both members of a high and ancient order, most excellent in Middle-earth? Our friendship would profit us both alike. Much we could still accomplish together to heal the disorders of the world. Let us understand one another, and dismiss from thoughts these lesser folk. Let them wait on our decisions. For the common good I am willing to redress the past. And to receive you, will you not consult with me? Will you not come up? So great was the power that Saruman exerted in this last effort, that none that stood within hearing were unmoved. But now the spell was wholly different. They heard the gentle remonstrance of a kindly king with an erring, but much-loved minister. But they were shut out, listening at a door to words not meant for them, ill-mannered children or stupid servants overhearing the elusive discourse of their elders, and wondering how it would affect their lots. Of loftier mold these two were made, reverent and wise. It was inevitable that they should make an alliance. Gandalf would ascend into the tower to discuss deep things beyond their comprehension in the high chambers of Orthanc. The door would be closed, and they would be left outside, dismissed to await allotted work or punishment. Even in the mind of Theoden, the thought took shape, like a shadow of doubt. He will betray us. He will go. We shall be lost. Then Gandalf laughed. The fantasy vanished like a puff of smoke. Saruman, Saruman, said Gandalf, still laughing. Saruman, you missed your path in life. You should have been the king's jester and earned your bread and stripes too by mimicking his counselors. Ah me, he paused, getting the better of his mirth. Understand one another. I fear I am beyond your comprehension. But you, Saruman, I understand now too well. I keep a clearer memory of your arguments and deeds than you suppose. When last I visited you, you were the jailer of Mordor, and there I was to be sent. Nay, the guest who has escaped from the roof will think twice before he comes back and by the door. Nay, I do not think I will come up. But listen, Saruman, for the last time, will you not come down? Isengard has proved less strong than your hope and fancy made it. So many other things in which you still have trust. Would it not be well to leave it for a while? To turn to new things, perhaps. Think well, Saruman. Will you not come down? A shadow passed over Saruman's face, then it went deathly white. Before he could conceal it, they saw through the mask the anguish of a mind in doubt, loathing to stay and dreading to leave its refuge. For a second he hesitated, and no one breathed. Then he spoke, and his voice was shrill and cold. Pride and hate were conquering him. "Will I come down?" he mocked. "Does an unarmed man come down to speak with robbers out of doors? I can hear you well enough here. I am no fool, and I do not trust you, Gandalf. They do not stand openly on my stairs, but I know where the wild wood demons are lurking at your command." "The treacherous are ever distrustful," answered Gandalf wearily, "but you need not fear for your skin. I do not wish to kill you or hurt you, as you would know if you really understood me. And I have the power to protect you. I am giving you a last chance. You can leave Orthanc, free, if you choose." "That sounds well," sneered Saruman, very much in the manner of Gandalf the Grey, so condescending and so very kind. "I do not doubt that you would find Orthanc commodious, and my departure convenient. But why should I wish to leave? And what do you mean by free? There are conditions, I presume." "Reasons for leaving you can see from your windows," answered Gandalf. "Others will occur to your thoughts. Your servants are destroyed and scattered. Your neighbors you have made your enemies, and you have cheated your new master or tried to do so. When his eye turns hither, it will be the red eye of wrath. But when I say free, I mean free. Free from bond, of chain or command, to go where you will, even to Mordor, Saruman, if you desire. But you will first surrender to me, the king of Orthanc, and your staff. They shall be pledges of your conduct, to be returned later if you merit them." Saruman's face grew livid, twisted with rage, and the red light was kindled in his eyes. He laughed wildly. "Later," he cried, and his voice rose to a scream. "Later? Yes, when you also have the keys of Barad-dûr itself, I suppose, and the crowns of 7 kings, and the rods of the 5 wizards, and you have purchased yourself a pair of boots many sizes larger than those that you wear now. A modest plan, hardly one in which my help is needed. I have other things to do. Do not be a fool. If you wish to treat with me, while you have a chance, go away and come back when you are sober, and leave behind those cutthroats and small ragtag that dangle at your tail. Good day." He turned and left the balcony. "Come back, Saruman," said Gandalf in a commanding voice. To the amazement of the others, Saruman turned again, and as if dragged against his will, he came slowly back to the iron rail, leaning on it, breathing hard. His face was lined and shrunken. His hand clutched his heavy black staff like a claw. "I did not give you leave to go," said Gandalf sternly. "I have not finished. You have become a fool, Saruman, and yet pitiable. You might still have turned away from folly and evil, and have been in service, but you choose to stay and gnaw the ends of your old plots. Stay then, but I warn you, you will not easily come out again, not unless the dark hands of the east stretch out to take you. Saruman," he cried, and his voice grew in power and authority. "Behold, I am not Gandalf the Grey whom you betrayed. I am Gandalf the White, who has returned from death. You have no color now, and I cast you from the Order and from the Council." He raised his hand and spoke slowly in a clear, cold voice. "Saruman, your staff is broken." There was a crack, and the staff split asunder in Saruman's hand, and the head of it fell down at Gandalf's feet. "Go," said Gandalf. With a cry, Saruman fell back and crawled away. At that moment, a heavy shining thing came hurtling down from above. It glanced off the iron rail, even as Saruman left it, and passing close to Gandalf's head, it smote the stair on which he stood. The rail rang and snapped. The stair cracked and splintered in glittering sparks, but the ball was unharmed. It rolled on down the steps, a globe of crystal, dark but glowing with a heart of fire. As it bounded away towards the pool, Pippin ran after it and picked it up. "The murderous rogue!" cried Éomer, but Gandalf was unmoved. "No, that was not thrown by Saruman," he said. "Nor even at his bidding, I think. It came from a window far above. A parting shot from Master Wormtongue, I fancy, but ill aimed." "The aim was poor, maybe, because he could not make up his mind which he hated more, you or Saruman," said Aragorn. "That may be so," said Gandalf. "Small comfort will those two have in their companionship. They will gnaw one another with words. But the punishment is just. If Wormtongue ever comes out of Orthanc alive, it will be more than he deserves." "Here, my lad, I'll take that. I did not ask you to handle it," he cried, turning sharply and seeing Pippin coming up the steps, slowly as if he were bearing a great weight. He went down to meet him and hastily took the dark globe from the hobbit, wrapping it in the folds of his cloak. "I will take care of this," he said. "It is not a thing, I guess, that Saruman would have chosen to cast away." "But he may have other things to cast," said Gimli. "If that is the end of the debate, let us go out stone's throw at least." "It is the end," said Gandalf. Let us go. They turned their backs on the doors of Orthanc and went down. The riders hailed the king with joy and saluted Gandalf. The spell of Saruman was broken. They had seen him come and call and crawl away dismissed. Well, that is done, said Gandalf. Now I must find Treebeard and tell him how things have gone. He will have guessed, surely, said Merry. Were they likely to end any other way? Not likely, answered Gandalf, though they came to the balance of hair. But I had reasons for trying, some merciful and some less so. First, Saruman was shown that the power of his voice was waning. He cannot be both tyrant and counselor. When the plot is ripe, it remains no longer secret. Yet he fell into the trap and tried to deal with his victims piecemeal, while others listened. Then I gave him a last choice, and a fair one, to renounce both Mordor and his private schemes, and make amends by helping us in our need. He knows our need, none better. Great a service he could have rendered, but he has not chosen to withhold it. He has chosen to withhold it, and keep the power of Orthanc. He will not serve, only command. He lives now in terror of the shadow of Mordor, and yet he still dreams of riding the storm. Unhappy fool. He will be devoured if the power of the East stretches out its arms to Isengard. We cannot destroy Orthanc from without, but Sauron, who knows what he can do? And what if Sauron does not conquer? What will you do to him? Asked Pippin. I? Nothing, said Gandalf. I will do nothing to him. I do not wish for mastery. What will become of him? I cannot say. I grieve that so much that was good now festers in the tower. Still for us things have not gone badly. Strange are the turns of fortune. Often does hatred turn itself. I guess that even if we had entered in, we could have found few treasures in Orthanc, more precious than the thing which Wormtongue threw down at us. A shrill shriek, suddenly cut off, came from an open window far above. It seems that Saruman thinks so too, said Gandalf. Let us leave them. Saruman is not happy. They returned now to the ruins of the gate. Hardly had they passed out under the arch, when from among the shadows of the piled stones, where they had stood, Treebeard and a dozen other Ents came striding up. Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas gazed at them in wonder. Here are 3 of my companions, Treebeard, said Gandalf. I have spoken of them, but you have not yet seen them. He named them one by one. The old Ent looked at them long and searchingly, and spoke to them in turn. Last he turned to Legolas. So you've come all this way from Mirkwood, my good elf. A very great forest it used to be. It still is, said Legolas, but not so great that we who dwell there ever tire of seeing new trees. I should dearly love to journey in Fangorn's wood. I scarcely passed beyond the eaves of it, and I did not wish to turn back. Treebeard's eyes gleamed with pleasure. I hope you may have your wish, ere the hills be much older, he said. I will come, if I have the fortune, said Legolas. I have made a bargain with my friend, that if all goes well, we will visit Fangorn together, by your leave. Any elf that comes with you will be welcome, said Treebeard. The friend I speak of is not an elf, said Legolas. I mean Gimli, Gloin's son here. Gimli bowed low, and the axe slipped from his belt and clattered on the ground. Ah, now, said Treebeard, looking dark-eyed at him. A dwarf and an axe-bearer. I have goodwill to elves, but you ask much. This is a strange friendship. Strange it may seem, said Legolas, but while Gimli lives, I shall not come to Fangorn alone. His axe is not for trees, but for orc necks, O Fangorn, master of Fangorn's wood. 42 he hewed in the battle. Oh, come now, said Treebeard, that is a better story. Well, well, things will go as they will, and there is no need to hurry to meet them. But now we must part for a while. Day is drawing to an end, yet Gandalf says you must go ere nightfall, and the Lord of the Mark is eager for his own house. Yes, we must go, and go now, said Gandalf. I fear that I must take your gatekeepers from you, but you will manage well enough without them. Maybe I will, said Treebeard, but I shall miss them. We have become friends in so short a while that I think I must be getting hasty, growing backwards, towards youth, perhaps. But there they are the first new thing under sun or moon that I have seen for so many a long, long day. I shall not forget them. I have put their names into the long list. Ents will remember it. Ents the earthborn, old as mountains, the wide walkers, water drinking, and hungry as hunters, the hobbit children, the laughing folk, the little people. They shall remain friends as long as leaves are renewed. Fare you well, but if you hear news up in your pleasant land in the Shire, send me word. You know what I mean. Word or sight of the Entwives. Come yourselves if you can. We will, said Merry and Pippin together, and they turned away hastily. Treebeard looked at them, and was silent for a while, shaking his head thoughtfully. Then he turned to Gandalf. So Saruman would not leave, he said. I did not think he would. His heart is as rotten as a black Huron's. Or Huron's, I should. Still, if I were overcome, and all my trees destroyed, I would not come while I had one dark hole left to hide in. No, said Gandalf, but you have not plotted to cover all the world with your trees, and choke all other living things. But there it is, Saruman remains to nurse his hatred and weave again such webs as he can. He has the key of Orthanc, but he must not be allowed to escape. Indeed, no. Drop my phone. Ents will see to that, said Treebeard. Saruman shall not set foot beyond the rock, without my leave. Ents will watch over him. Good, said Gandalf. That is what I hoped. Now I can go and turn to other matters with one care the less. But you must be weary. The waters have gone down. It will not be enough to put sentinels around the tower, I fear. I do not doubt that there were deep ways delved under Orthanc, and that Saruman hopes to go and come unmarked before long. If you will undertake the labor, I beg you to pour in the waters again and do so while Isengard remains a standing pool, or we discover the outlets. When all the underground places are drowned and the outlets blocked, then Saruman must stay upstairs and look out the windows. Leave it to the end, said Treebeard. We shall search the valley from head to foot and peer under every pebble. Trees are coming back to live here. Old trees. Wild trees. The Watchwood, we will call it. Not a squirrel will go here, but I shall know of it. Leave it to Ents. Until the 7 times the years in which he tormented us have passed, we shall not tire of watching him. And that is chapter 10, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, I'm gonna pick up my phone. So... Okay. Knocked it off my desk. That's chapter 10, ladies and gentlemen, the voice of Saruman. So I'm going to take a break to take some swigs of water, and we'll get into chapter 11, the Palantir. Alright? Now, we'll find out a little bit on what a Palantir is. Palantir is not a location, it's a thing. It's a thing. I have no room on this desk. Alright. Chapter 11. The end of, technically, Book 3, but the end of Part 1 of the Two Towers. So, but welcome everyone. Thank you all for being here. The sun was sinking behind the long western arm of the mountains when Gandalf and his companions, and the king with his riders, set out again from Isengard. Gandalf took Merry behind him, and Aragorn took Pippin. 2 of the king's men went on ahead, riding swiftly, and passed soon out of sight down into the valley. The others followed at an easy pace. Ents in a solemn row stood like statues at the gate, their long arms uplifted, but they made no sound. Merry and Pippin looked back when they had passed some way down the winding road. Sunlight was still shining in the sky, but long shadows reached over Isengard, gray ruins falling into darkness. Treebeard stood alone there now. Like the distant stump of an old tree, the hobbits thought of their first meeting upon the sunny ledge far away on the borders of Fangorn. Well, it's shaped like a crystal ball, Patrick, but it doesn't exactly work like a crystal ball. It needs another Palantir. It's basically a form of communication and a way of watching, but it needs another Palantir to be able to see, kind of send. I don't want to say messages, but like that's how the Palantir works. So for shall we say our Pharazôn, or not? Well, our Pharazôn does have it, but for Tar Muriel in Rings of Power to have one already in Rings of Power makes no sense because it doesn't exactly work like a crystal ball. It would need another Palantir to work. to communicate, basically. So where is another one? It makes no sense. That's why Rings of Power makes absolutely no... Well, one of the reasons why Rings of Power makes absolutely no sense, but continuing on. They came to the Pillar of the White Hand. The pillar was still standing, but the graven hand had been thrown down and broken into small pieces. Sorry. Right in the middle of the road, the long forefinger lay, white in the dusk, its red nail darkening to black. The Ents pay attention to every detail, said Gandalf. They rode on, and evening deepened in the valley. Are we riding far tonight, Gandalf asked Merry for after a while. I don't know how you feel with a small ragtag dangling behind you. The ragtag is tired and will be glad to stop dangling and lie down. So you heard that, said Gandalf. Don't let it rankle. Be thankful no longer words were aimed at you. He had his eyes on you. If it is any comfort to your pride, I should say that, at the moment, you and Pippin are more in his thoughts than all the rest of us. Who you are, how you came there, and why. What you know, whether you were captured, and if so, how you escaped when all the orcs perished. It is with those little riddles that the great mind of Saruman is troubled. A sneer from him, Meriadoc, is a compliment, if you feel honored by his concern. Thank you, said Merry, but it is a greater honor to dangle at your tail, Gandalf. For one thing, in that position, one has a chance of putting a question a second time. Are we riding far tonight? Gandalf laughed. A most unquenchable hobbit. All wizards should have a hobbit or two in their care, to teach them the meaning of the word, and to correct them. I beg your pardon, but I have given thought even to these simple matters. We will ride for a few hours, gently, until we come to the end of the valley. Tomorrow we must ride faster. When we came, we meant to go straight from Isengard back to the king's house at Edoras, over the plains, a ride of some days. But we have taken thought and changed the plan. Messengers have gone ahead to Helm's Deep, to warn them that the king is returning tomorrow. He will ride from there with many men to Dunharrow, by paths among the hills. From now on, no more than 2 or 3 together are to go openly over the land, by day or night, when it can be avoided. Nothing or a double helping is your way, said Merry. I'm afraid I was not looking beyond tonight's bed. Where and what are Helm's Deep and all the rest of it? I don't know anything about this country. Then you'd best learn something if you wish to understand what is happening, but not just now, and not from me. I have too many pressing things to think about. All right, I'll tackle Strider by the campfire. He's less testy. But why all this secrecy? I thought we had won the battle. Yes, we have won, but only the first victory, and that in itself increases our danger. There was some link between Isengard and Mordor, which I have not yet fathomed. How they exchanged news, I am not sure, but they did so. The Eye of Barad-dûr will be looking impatiently towards the Wizard's Vale, I think, and towards Rohan. The less it sees, the better. The road passed slowly, winding down the valley. Now further and now nearer, Isen flowed in its stony bed. Night came down from the mountains. All the mist was gone. A chill wind blew. The moon, now waxing round, filled the eastern sky with a pale cold sheen. The shoulders of the mountain to their right sloped down to bare hills. The wide plains opened gray before them. At last they halted. Then they turned aside, leaving the highway and taking to the sweet upland turf again. Going westward, a mile... Sorry, I can't grab one single page. Going westward a mile or so, they came to a dale that opened southward, leaning back into the slope of Round Dol Baron, the last hill of the northern ranges, green-footed, crowned with heather. The sides of the glen were shaggy with last year's bracken, among which the tight-curled fronds of spring were just thrusting through the sweet-scented earth. Thorn bushes grew thick upon the low banks, and under them they made their camp. 2 hours or so before the middle of the night, they lit a fire in the hollow, down among the roots of a spreading hawthorn, tall as a tree, writhen with age, but hale in every limb. Buds were swelling at each twig's tip. Guards were set, 2 at a watch. The rest, after they had supped, wrapped themselves in a cloak and blanket and slept. The hobbits lay in a corner by themselves upon a pile of old bracken. Merry was sleepy, but Pippin now seemed curiously restless. The bracken cracked and rustled as he twisted and turned. What's the matter? Asked Merry. Are you lying on an anthill? No, said Pippin, but I am not comfortable. I wonder how long it is since I slept in the bed. Merry yawned. Work it out on your fingers, he said. But you must know how long it is since we left Lorien. Oh, that, said Pippin. I mean a real bed in the bedroom. Well, Rivendell, then, said Merry. but I could sleep anywhere tonight. You had the luck, Mary, said Pippin softly after a pause. You were riding with Gandalf. Well, what of it? Did you get any news, any information out of him? Yes, a good deal. More than usual. But you heard it all, or most of it. You were close by, and we were talking no secrets. But you can go with him tomorrow if you think you can get more out of him, and if he'll have you. Can I? Good. But he's close, isn't he? Not changed at all. Oh yes, he is, said Mary, waking up a little and beginning to wonder what was bothering his companion. He has grown, or something. He can be both kinder and more alarming, merrier and more solemn than before, I think. He has changed. We have not had a chance to see how much yet. But think of the last part of that business with Saruman. Remember, Saruman was once Gandalf's superior, head of the council, whatever they may be exactly. He was Saruman the White. Gandalf is the White now. Saruman came when he was told, and his rod was taken. And then he was just told to go, and he went. Well, if Gandalf has changed at all, then he's closer than ever, that's all. He's close, Pippin argued. That's glass ball now. He seemed mighty pleased with it. He knows or guesses something about it, but does he tell us what? No, not a word. Yet I picked it up, and I saved it from rolling into a pool. Here, I'll take that, my lad. That's all. I wonder what it is. It felt so very heavy, Pippin's voice fell very low, as if he was talking to himself. Hello, said Mary. So that's what is bothering you. Now, Pippin, my lad, don't forget Gildor sang, the one Sam used to quote. Do not meddle in the affairs of wizards, for they are subtle and quick to anger. But our whole life for months has been one long meddling in the affairs of wizards, said Pippin. I should like a bit of information as well as danger. I should like a look at that ball. Go to sleep, said Mary. You'll get information enough, sooner or later. My dear Pippin, no took ever beat a brandy buck for inquisitiveness, but is this the time I ask you? All right, what's the harm in my telling you what I should like? A look at that stone. I know I can't have it, with old Gandalf sitting on it like a hen on an egg. But it doesn't help so much to get no more from you than, you can't have it, go to sleep. Well, what else could I say, said Mary. I'm sorry, Pippin, but you really must wait until the morning. I'll be as curious as you, like after breakfast, and I'll help you in any way I can at wizard whittling. But I can't keep awake any longer. If I yawn any more, I shall split at the ears. Good night. Pippin said no more. He lay still now, but sleep remained far away, and it was not encouraged by the sound of Mary breathing softly, asleep in a few minutes after saying good night. The thought of the dark globe seemed to grow stronger as all grew quiet. Pippin felt again its weight in his hands, and saw again the mysterious red depths into which he had looked for a moment. He tossed and turned and tried to think of something else. At last he could stand it no longer. He got up and looked around. It was chilly, and he wrapped his cloak about him. The moon was shining, cold and white, down in the dell, and the shadows of the bushes were black. All about lay sleeping shapes. The two guards were not in view. They were up on the hill, perhaps, or hidden in the bracken. Driven by some impulse that he did not understand, Pippin walked softly to where Gandalf lay. He looked down at him. The wizard seemed asleep, but with lids not fully closed. There was a glitter of eyes under his long lashes. Pippin stepped back hastily, but Gandalf made no sign. And drawn forward once more, half against his will, the hobbit crept up again from behind the wizard's head. He was rolled in a blanket, with his cloak spread over the top, and close beside him, between his right side and his bent arm, there was a hummock. Something round wrapped in the dark cloth. His hand seemed only just to have slipped off of it to the ground. Hardly breathing, Pippin crept nearer, foot by foot. At last he knelt down. Then he put his hands out stealthily, and slowly lifted the lump up. It did not seem quite so heavy as he had expected. Only some bundle of oddments, perhaps, after all, he thought, with a strange sense of relief. But he did not put the bundle down again. He stood up for a moment, clasping it. Then an idea came in his mind. He tiptoed away, found a large stone, and came back. Quickly now he drew off the cloth, wrapped the stone in it, and kneeling down, laid it back by the wizard's hand. Then at last he looked at the thing that he had uncovered. There it was. A smooth globe of crystal, now dark and dead, lying bare before his knees. Pippin lifted it, covered it hurriedly in his own cloak, and half turned to go back to his bed. At that moment Gandalf moved in his sleep, and muttered some words. They seemed to be in a strange tongue. His hand groped out and clasped the wrapped stone. Then he sighed and did not move again. "You idiotic fool," Pippin muttered to himself. "You're going to get yourself into frightful trouble. Put it back quick." But he found now that his knees quaked, and did not dare to go near enough to the wizard to reach the bundle. "I'll never get it back now without waking him," he thought. "Not while I'm a bit calmer. Not till I'm a bit calmer. So I may as well have a look first. Not just here, though." He stole away and sat down on a green hillock, not far from his bed. The moon looked in over the edge of the dell. Pippin sat with his knees drawn up and the ball between them. He bent low over it, looking like a greedy child stooping over a bowl of food. In a corner away from others, he drew his cloak aside and gazed at it. The air seemed still and tense about him. At first the globe was dark, black as jet, with the moonlight gleaming on its surface. Then there came a faint glow, and stir in the heart of it, and it held his eyes, so that now he could not look away. Soon all the inside seemed on fire. The ball was spinning, or the lights within were revolving. Suddenly the lights went out. He gave a gasp and struggled, but he remained bent, clasping the ball with both hands. Closer and closer he bent, and then he became rigid. His lips moved soundlessly for a while. Then with a strangled cry, he fell back and lay still. The cry was piercing. The guards leapt down from the banks. All the camp was soon astir. "So this is the thief," said Gandalf. Hastily he cast his cloak over the globe where it lay. "But you, Pippin, this is a grievous turn to things." He knelt by Pippin's body. The hobbit was lying on his back, rigid, with unseeing eyes staring up at the sky. "The devilry! What mischief has he done? To himself and to all of us." The wizard's face was drawn and haggard. He took Pippin's hand and bent over his face, listening for his breath. Then he laid his hands on his brow. The hobbit shuddered. His eyes closed. He cried out and sat up, staring in bewilderment at all the faces around him, pale in the moonlight. "It is not for you, Saruman," he cried in a shrill and toneless voice, shrinking away from Gandalf. "I will send for it at once. Do you understand? Say just that." Then he struggled to get up and escape, but Gandalf held him gently and firmly. "Hittergan Took," he said, "come back." The hobbit relaxed and fell back, clinging to the wizard's hand. "Gandalf," he cried. "Gandalf, forgive me." "Forgive you," said the wizard. Tell me first what you have done." I took the ball and looked at it," stammered Pippin, "and I saw things that frightened me. And I wanted to go away, but I couldn't. And then he came and questioned me, and he looked at me, and that is all I remembered." "That won't do," said Gandalf sternly. "What did you see, and what did you say?" Again, welcome everyone. Pippin shut his eyes and shivered, but said nothing. They all stared at him in silence, except Merry, who turned away. But Gandalf's face was still hard. "Speak," he said. In a low, hesitating voice, Pippin began again, and slowly his words grew clearer and stronger. "I saw a dark sky, and tall battlements," he said, "and tiny stars. It seemed very far away, and long ago, yet hard and clear. Then the stars went in and out. They were cut off by things with wings. Very big, I think, really, but in the glass they looked like bats wheeling round the tower. I thought there were 9 of them. One began to fly straight towards me, getting bigger and bigger. It had a horrible... No, I can't say. I tried to get away because I thought it would fly out, but when it had covered all the globe, it disappeared. Then he came. He did not speak so that I could hear words. He just looked, and I understood. So you've come back. Why have you neglected to report for so long?" I did not answer. He said, "Who are you?" I said I'll not answer, but it hurt me horribly, and he pressed me, so I said, "A hobbit." Then suddenly he seemed to see me, and he laughed at me. It was cruel. It was like being stabbed with knives. I struggled, but he said, "Wait a moment. We shall meet again soon. Tell Saruman that this dainty is not for him. I will send it for it at once. Do you understand? Say just that." Welcome, everyone. Alright, sure. Okay. Then he gloated over me. I thought I was falling to pieces. No, I can't say any more. I don't remember anything else. "Look at me," said Gandalf. Pippin looked up straight into his eyes. The wizard held his gaze for a moment in silence. Then his face grew gentler, and the shadows of a smile appeared. He laid his hand softly on Pippin's head. "All right," he said. "Say no more. You have taken no harm. There is no lie in your eyes, as I feared. But he did not speak long with you. A fool, but an honest fool you remain, Peregrine Took. Wiser ones might have done worse in such a pass. But mark this. You have been saved, and all your friends too, mainly by good fortune, as it is called. You cannot count on it a second time. If he had questioned you, then and there, almost certainly, you would have told all that you know, to the ruin of us all. But he was too eager. He did not want information only. He wanted you, quickly, so that he could deal with you in the Dark Tower, slowly. Don't shudder. If you will meddle in the affairs of wizards, you must be prepared to think of such things. But come, I forgive you. Be comforted. Things have not turned as evilly as they might. Yes, Conspiratus. He lifted Pippin gently and carried him back to his bed. Merry followed and sat down beside him. Lie there and rest if you can, Pippin, said Gandalf. Trust me. If you feel an itch in your palms again, tell me of it. Such things can be cured. But anyway, my dear hobbits, don't put a lump of rock under my elbow again. Now I will leave you two together for a while. I only have about 5 more pages, but I need to get some more water. My vocal cords are going to be hurting. Alright. With that, Gandalf returned to the others, who were still standing up by the Orthanc stone in troubled thought. Peril comes in the night when least expected, he said. We've had a narrow escape. How is the hobbit, Pippin? Asked Aragorn. I think all will be well now, answered Gandalf. He was not held long, and hobbits have amazing power of recovery. The memory or the horror of it will probably fade quickly. Too quickly, perhaps. Will you, Aragorn, take the Orthanc stone and guard it? It is a dangerous charge. Dangerous indeed, but not to all, said Aragorn. There is one who may claim it by right, for this assuredly is the Palantir of Orthanc from the treasury of Elendil, set here by the kings of Gondor. Now my hour draws near. I will take it. Gandalf looked at Aragorn, and then, to the surprise of the others, he lifted the covered stone and bowed as he presented it. Receive it, Lord, he said. In earnest of other things it shall be given back. But if I may counsel you in the use of your own, do not use it, yet. Be weary. When have I been hasty or unweary? Who have waited and prepared for so many long years, said Aragorn. Never yet. Do not then stumble at the end of the road, answered Gandalf. But at the least, keep the thing secret. You and all others that stand here. The Hobbit Peregrine, above all, should not know where it is bestowed. The evil fit may come on him again. For alas, he has handled it and looked in it, as should never have happened. He ought never to have touched it in Isengard, and there I should have been quicker. But my mind was bent on Saruman, and I did not at once guess the nature of the stone. Then I was weary, and as I lay pondering it, sleep overcame me. Now I know. Yes, there can be no doubt, said Aragorn. At last we know the link between Isengard and Mordor, and how it worked. Much is explained. Strange powers have our enemies, and strange weaknesses, said Theoden. But it has long been said, oft evil shall evil mar. That many times is seen, said Gandalf, but at this time we have been strangely fortunate. Maybe I have been saved by this hobbit from a grave blunder. I had considered whether or not to probe the stone myself to find its uses. Had I done so, I should have been revealed to him myself. I am not ready for such a trial, if indeed I shall ever be so. But even if I found the power to withdraw myself, it would be disastrous for him to see me yet, until the hour comes when secrecy will avail no longer. That hour is now come, I think. Not yet, said Gandalf. There remains a short while of doubt, which we must use. The enemy, it is clear, thought that the stone was in Orthanc. Why should he not? And that therefore the hobbit was captive there, driven to look in the glass before his torment by Saruman. The dark mind will be filled now with the voice and face of the hobbit, with expectation. It may take some time before he learns his error. We must snatch that time. We have been too leisurely. We must move. The neighborhood of Isengard is no place now to linger in. I will ride ahead at once with Peregrine Took. It will be better for him than lying in the dark while others sleep. I will keep Eomer and 10 riders, said the king. They shall ride with me at early day. The rest may go with Aragorn and ride as soon as they have mind. As you will, said Gandalf, but make all the speed you may to the cover of the hills, to Helm's Deep. At that moment a shadow fell over them. The bright moonlight seemed to be suddenly cut off. Several of the riders cried out and crouched, holding their arms above their heads as if to ward off a blow from above. A blind fear and deadly cold fell on them. Cowering, they looked up. A vast winged shape passed over the moon, like a black cloud. It wheeled and went north, flying at a speed greater than any wind of Middle-earth. The stars fainted before it. It was gone. They stood up rigid as stones. Gandalf was gazing up, his arms out and downward, stiff, his hands clenched. Nazgul, he cried. The messenger of the Mordor. The storm is coming. The Nazgûl will have crossed the river. Ride, ride. Wait not for the dawn. Let us not the swift wait for the slow. Ride. He sprang away, calling Shadowfax as he ran. Aragorn followed him. Going to Pippin, Gandalf picked him up in his arms. You shall come with me this time, he said. Shadowfax shall show you his paces. And he ran to the place where he had slept. Shadowfax stood there already. Slinging the small bag, which was all his luggage across his shoulders, the wizard leapt upon the horse's back. Aragorn lifted Pippin and sat him in Gandalf's arms, wrapped in a cloak and blankets. Farewell, follow fast, said Gandalf. Away, Shadowfax. The great horse tossed his head, his flowing tail flicked in the moonlight, and he leapt forward, spurning the earth, and was gone like the north wind from the mountains. A beautiful, restful night, said Merry to Pippin, said Merry to Aragorn. Some folks have wonderful luck. He did not want to sleep, and he wanted to ride with Gandalf, and there he goes. Instead of being turned into a stone himself to stand here forever as a warning. If you had been the first to lift the Orthanc stone and not he, how would it be now, said Aragorn? You might have done worse. Who can say? But now it is your luck to come with me, I fear, at once. Go and get ready, and bring anything that Pippin left behind. Make haste. God, allergies are itching. Over the plain, Shadowfax was flying, needing no urging and no guidance. Less than an hour had passed, and they had reached the fords of Isen and crossed them. The mound of the riders and its cold spears lay gray behind them. Pippin was recovering. He was warm, but the wind in his face was keen and refreshing. He was with Gandalf. The horror of the stone and of the hideous shadow over the moon was fading. Things left behind in the midst of the mountains are in passing dream. He drew a deep breath. I did not know you rode bareback, said Gandalf. You haven't a saddle or a bridle. I do not ride elf fashion except on Shadowfax, said Gandalf. But Shadowfax will have no harness. You do not ride Shadowfax. He is willing to carry you, or not. If he is willing, that is enough. It is then his business to see that you remain on his back, unless you jump off into the air. How fast is he going? Asked Pippin. Fast by the wind, but very smooth. And how light his footfalls are. He is running now as fast as the swiftest horse could gallop, answered Gandalf. But that is not fast for him. The land is rising a little here and is more broken than it was beyond the river. But see how the white mountains are drawing near under the stars? Yonder are the Thrihirn peaks like black spears. It will not be long before we reach the branching roads and come to the deepening combe, where the battle was fought 2 nights ago. Pippin was silent again for a while. He heard Gandalf singing softly to himself, murmuring brief snatches of a rhyme in many tongues as the miles ran under him. At last the wizard passed into a song of which the hobbit caught the words. A few lines came clear to his ears through the rushing of the winds. Tall ships and tall kings, 3 times 3. What brought they from the foundered land over the flowing sea? 7 stars and 7 stones, and 1 white tree. One white tree. What are you saying, Gandalf, said Pippin. I was just running over some of the rhymes of lore in my mind, answered the wizard. Hobbits, I suppose, have forgotten them, even those they never knew. No, not all, said Pippin, and we have many of our own, which wouldn't interest you, perhaps, but I have never heard this one. What is it about, the 7 stars and 7 stones? About the Palantir, the kings of old, said Gandalf. And what are they? The name meant that which looks far away. The Orthanc stone was one. Then it was not made, Pippin hesitated, by the enemy? No, said Gandalf, nor by Saruman. It is beyond his art, and beyond Sauron's too. The Palantir came from beyond Western East, from Eldamar. The Noldor made them. Feanor himself, maybe, wrought them in days so long ago that the time cannot be measured in years. But there is nothing that Sauron cannot turn to evil uses. Alas for Saruman, it was his downfall. As I now perceive, perilous to us all are the devices of an art deeper than we possess ourselves. Yet he must bear the blame. Fool to keep it a secret for his own profit. No word did he ever speak of it to any of the council. We had not yet given thought to the fate of the Palantir of Gondor and its ruinous wars. But they were almost forgotten. By men, they were almost forgotten. Even in Gondor, they were a secret known only to a few. In Arnor, they were remembered only in the rhyme of lore among the Dunedain. Do it, Gasperius. What did the men of old use them for? Asked Pippin, delighted and astonished at getting answers to so many questions, and wondered how long it would last. To see far off and to converse in thought with one another, said Gandalf. So you see, it's not like a crystal ball. It's not exactly seeing into the future. You're conversing by thought with someone else or other entity that has another Palantir. That's basically a form of communication. In that way, they long guarded and united the realm of Gondor. They set up stones at Minas Arnor and at Minas Ithil, and at Orthanc in the Ring of Isengard. The chief and master of these was under the Dome of Stars at Osgiliath before its ruin. The three others were far away in the north, in the houses of Elrond. It is told that they were at Anuminas and Amunsul, and at Elendil. Stone was on the tower hills that looked towards Mithlond, in the Gulf of Lune, where the grey ships lie. Each Palantir replied to each, but all those in Gondor were ever open to the view of Osgiliath. Now it appears that as the Rock of Orthanc has withstood the storms of time, so there the Palantir of that tower has remained. But alone it could do nothing but see small images of things far off and days remote. Very useful, no doubt. That was to Saruman, yet it seems that he was not content. Further and further abroad he gazed until he cast his gaze upon Barad-dûr. Then he was caught. Who knows where the lost stones of Arnor and Gondor now lie, buried or drowned deep. But one at least Sauron must have obtained and mastered to his purpose. I guess that it was the Ithil stone, for he took Minas Ithil long ago and turned it into an evil place. Minas Morgul it has become. Easy it is now to guess how quickly the roving eye of Saruman was trapped and held, and how ever since he has been persuaded from afar and daunted when persuasion would not serve. The biter bit, the hawk under the eagle's foot, the spider in a steely web. How long, I wonder, has he been constrained to come often to his glass for inspection and instruction, and the Orthanc stone so bent towards Barad-dûr that, if any save a will of adamant now looks into it, it will bear his mind and sight swiftly thither. And how it draws one to itself. Have I not felt it? Even now my heart desires to test my will upon it, to see if I could not wrench it from him and turn it where I would, to look across the wide seas of water and of time to Tirion the fair, and perceive the unmanageable hand and mind of Feanor at their work, while both the white tree and the golden were in flower. And he sighed and fell silent. I wish I had known all this before, said Pippin. I had no notion of what I was doing. Oh yes, you had, said Gandalf. You knew you were behaving wrongly and foolishly, and you told yourself so, but you did not listen. I did not tell you all this before, because it is only my musing on all that has happened that I have at last understood, even as we ride together. But if I had spoken sooner, it would not have lessened your desire or made it easier to resist. On the contrary, no, the burned hand teaches best. After that advice about fire goes to the heart. It does, said Pippin. If all the 7 stones were laid out before me now, I would shut my eyes and put my hands in my pockets. Good, said Gandalf. That is what I hoped. But I should like to know, Pippin began. Mercy, cried Gandalf. If the giving of information is to be the cure for your inquisitiveness, I shall spend all the rest of my days in answering you. What more do you want to know? The names of all the stars, and of all living things, and the whole history of Middle-earth, and over heaven, and of the sundering seas, laughed Pippin. Of course, what less? But I'm not in a hurry tonight. At the moment I was just wondering about the Black Shadow. I heard you shout, Messenger of Mordor. What was it? What could it do at Isengard? It was a black rider on wings. A Nazgul, said Gandalf. It could have taken you away to the Dark Tower. But it was not coming from me, was it? Faltered Pippin. I mean, I didn't know that I had. Of course not, said Gandalf. It is 200 leagues or more in straight flight from Barad-dûr to Orthanc, and even a Nazgul will take a few hours to fly between them. But Saruman certainly looked in the stone since the Orc raid, and more of his secret thought, I do not doubt, had been read than he intended. A messenger has been sent to find out what he's doing. And after what has happened tonight, another will come, I think, and swiftly. So Saruman will come to the last pinch of the vice that he has put his hand in. He has no captive to send. He has no stone to see with, and cannot answer the summons. Sauron will only believe that he is holding the captive and refusing to use the stone. It will not help Saruman to tell the truth to the messenger, for Isengard may be ruined, yet he is still safe in Orthanc. So whether he will or no, he will appear a rebel. Yet he rejected us, so as to avoid that very thing. What he will do in such a plight, I cannot guess. He has power still, I think, while in Orthanc, to resist the 9 riders. He may try to do so. He may try to trap the Nazgul, or at least to slay the thing on which it now rides the air. In that case, let Rohan look to its horses. But I cannot tell how it will fall out, well or ill for us. It may be that the counsels of the enemy will be confused or hindered by his wrath at Saruman. It may be that he will learn that I was there and stood upon the stairs of Orthanc, with hobbits at my tail, or that an heir of Elendil lives and stood beside me. If Wormtongue was not deceived by the armor of Rohan, he would remember Aragorn and the title that he claimed. That is what I fear. And so we fly, not from the danger, but into greater danger. Every stride of Shadowfax bears you nearer to the land of shadow, Peregrine took. Pippin made no answer, but clutched his cloak, as if a sudden chill had struck him. Grey land passed under them. See now, said Gandalf, the Westfold Dales are opening before us. Here we come back to the eastward road. The dark shadow yonder is the mouth of the Deeping Combe. That way lies Aglarond, and the glittering caves. Do not ask me about them. Ask Gimli if you meet again, and for the first time you may get an answer longer than you wish. You will not see the caves yourself, not on this journey. Soon they will be far behind. I thought you were going to stop at Helm's Deep, said Pippin. Where are you going then? To Minas Tirith, before the seas of war surround it. Oh, and how far is that? Leagues upon leagues, answered Gandalf. Thrice as far as the dwelling of King Theoden, and they are more than 100 miles east from here, as the messengers of Mordor fly. Shadowfax must run a longer road, which will prove the swifter. We shall ride now till daybreak, and that is some hours away. And even Shadowfax must rest, in some hollow of the hills, at Edoras, I hope. Sleep if you can. You may see the first glimmer of dawn upon the golden roof of the House of Earl, and then 3 days thence you shall see the purple shadow of Mount Mindalluin, and the walls of the Tower of Denethor, white in the morning. Away, Shadowfax! Run, Greatheart! Run as you have never run before. Now we are come to the lands where you were foaled, and every stone you know. Run now, hope is in speed. Shadowfax tossed his head and cried aloud, as if a trumpet had summoned him to battle. And he sprang forward. Fire flew from his feet. Night rushed over him. As he fell slowly into sleep, Pippin had a strange feeling. He and Gandalf were still a stone, seated upon the statue of a running horse, while the world rolled away beneath his feet, with a great noise of wind. And that is Book 3, or Part 1, technically, of Two Towers. When we begin Book 4, or Part 2 of Two Towers, we will be going back to we're following Sam and Frodo. So technically, yeah, we're hitting the third movie, in a sense. But the way you're seeing the way the books are laid out, basically, where Part 1 follows one element of the group. Basically, we're following Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, Pippin, Merry, Gandalf, and so forth. Like, their adventures. And now we're going to follow Frodo and Sam on their adventures since the end of Fellowship of the Ring. So we're well past Helm's Deep. Helm's Deep is done. It lasted longer in the movie than it did in the book, essentially. I'm not trying to say that as a negative. I'm just saying that we're well past Helm's Deep. Like, Helm's Deep is done. We're going to now focus on Frodo and Sam in Part 2. Alright. So that is the end of Part 1 of Two Towers. That is the end of Book 3. So yeah, so basically, like, if you're you're following along with the reading, you're noticing also that elements from, when you're watching the movies, elements from Books 2 and 3 are kind of blending together in one movie. Kind of like with Fellowship and Two Towers, basically throughout the trilogy, elements of each, the following book kind of bleeds into the preceding story. So we see little bits of Two Towers in the Fellowship of the Ring. We see little bits of Return of the King in Two Towers. And so forth. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. So what my plan is, again, for those who are tuned in after my intro, my plan is I'm going to be doubling up on reading streams beginning now, for two reasons. One, to finish, I want to have Two Towers finished before September, because in September I'm going to start reading horror stories, beginning with Hellbound Heart, which is the book Hellraiser is based on. Basically September leading into October, getting in the mood for Halloween. For me, fall is my favorite season, so I always love reading scary stories around beginning September into the October time period. So that's the plan. And then, beginning, once November hits, return to Return of the King and finish up the Lord of the Rings, basically. So September and October will be primarily like horror stories to get you all in the mood and anticipation for basically Halloween in October. So again, if it all goes according to plan, I'll have 2 towers finished before August is done. And then I'll use that last week of August to recuperate my voice. I'll most likely do just gaming streams that week, but I'll be recuperating my voice, so that way when September 2nd hits, we'll be reading Hellbound Heart, and so forth. But that is the plan, ladies and gentlemen. So tomorrow, on YouTube, will be the top 10 2001 films, and if you know me, I think you can pretty much gauge what my number 1 is going to be from 2001. Alright, so that'll be about 8 p.m. Eastern, our own personal top 10 lists of 2001 films. Then Thursday, I'll be back to a reading stream and reading the first 2 chapters of part 2 of the 2 Towers, where we come back to seeing Frodo and Sam's journey. Alright? But anyway, chat, that is basically the outro, and so forth. So again, tomorrow, top 10 2001 films. I have to create a thumbnail tomorrow for it, to get that ready. I just have to order my list basically, but I have the top 10 ones marked for my list, and then the reading stream Thursday, and the no stream Friday because I have to get up early the next day. Depending on how I feel Saturday, I might do a stream or I might just do a watch party on my Discord. Alright, so Saturday is 50-50 stream or Discord watch party. Might even watch Hellraiser if you want to, or Final Destination Bloodline and so forth. We'll figure out a movie to watch Saturday if I don't feel up to gaming. Sunday, Talk Nerdy to Us should be on my channel, on my YouTube channel at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, and then back to Silent Hill 2 beginning Monday. I made it past. I've defeated Eddie yesterday. I'm happy about that. I was fully anticipating taking the whole stream to kill that bastard. But it took like 3 tries. Like once I just settled myself, and I finally got him. It took a while, but I finally got him. But yeah, we're returning to Silent Hill 2 beginning Monday. But anyway, so that is the plan moving forward. That is the plan, ladies and gentlemen. Very much looking forward to reading Hellbound Heart. If you have not read the book, it's a good read. It's a good read. Yeah, 3rd time was the charm, Patrick. 3rd time ended up being the charm. Because I pretty much rage quit. Was it when I played it Friday or something like that? I had to rage quit because I was just going crazy trying to defeat him. But there it is, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, so we will get through 2 towers this month. Take a break, and then return to Return of the King, beginning in November. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, have a good rest of your day or evening, wherever you are in the world. Hope you have had fun listening to the last 2 chapters of Part 3, or Book 3, I should say. And I hope you enjoy listening to the replay. So take care, everyone. Stay safe, and good night.